Might be one of the greatest trios of all time.
The Bee Gees?
That's right. Yeah, the interesting thing about the Bee Gees, they're like one of the few groups that like their first couple albums were completely different than their, you know, popular albums, because somewhere in there they figured out that Barry Gibb could go. Could I get a bacon, egg, and cheese croissant, everything bagel, sesame bagel, a medium regular coffee with 4 creams, and a large coffee, 6 creams, and 2 Splendas?
Large coffee, 6 creams, 2 Splenda. Would that complete your order?
That's it.
You can pull up.
I'm playing just guitar again this week. I had a question last week about how I ran my stuff. Last weekend, I ran the Helix into the Kemper. And so I didn't have any amp modeling in the Helix. I just used it for effects, and I ran it right out of the Helix into the front end of the Kemper. No effects loop or anything like that. And it was just an experiment to see if it sounds perceivably better using the Kemper for amp modeling rather than the Helix. So this weekend I'm going just Helix. Guitar, Helix, straight to the board. Can you explain our keys rig that you're over here? It looks like you're just testing it out, huh?
Yeah, this is the real simple rig today. It's just the Yamaha, the Mox F8, which is a good 88 key weighted key controller. And then up here is the MX61, which is also Yamaha. Just using the internal sounds today, just some keys layers. The problem with keyboards like this, and no offense to Yamaha, but you're just, you have to use the sounds that they give you, which is cool. Some of the sounds are really great, but it is nice to be able to use pads and things like that from external sources. I think there's a way probably with this keyboard to import stuff. It's just super complicated. With MainStage it's a lot easier, which is why we designed the pads patch. You just hit a button.
So do we have one of these keyboards for like piano sounds and one for ambient sounds? Is that how they're set up?
Yeah, well today's even more simple than that. Today the top keyboard is just pads.
And those are built-in sounds on that keyboard?
Yeah, these are the Yamaha pads. There's one patch on Yamaha called Analog Pads that's pretty legit.
Pretty good.
Yeah, we use that for everything. And this one is piano with a little bit of layered pads.
Sweet. Yes, play the Halloween theme song, Fuller. Can you do it? Getting ready for church! So here's our set list for the day. We got This Is Amazing Grace. I'm just going to show it to you via Helix Pax form. This Is Amazing Grace. Do It Again, Elevation. Come Thou Fount, which I'm actually not playing on, but that's the next song. And then Reckless Love, which I get to play lead guitars on. That'll be fun.
Stage layout here. A lot of people don't know this, but PCO gives you this ability to do this.
Oh yeah, this is all in Planning Center,
This is on Planning Center, yeah. I mean, we made a layout of our stage and uploaded it as a background, and then you can move everyone who's scheduled wherever you want them.
So we have one of these for every song, don't we?
Yeah, we do actually.
Abraham just found me and said, Brian, how do I turn on the Kemper?
It's a lot of buttons right there.
It's not that obvious, is it?
There's like 5 options there.
You want to go to browser. That is kind of confusing. What do you go to? This is Abraham. Abraham made his debut.
Oh yeah, you probably recognize
a few weeks ago.
Dun 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 dun.
Whoa! Look at that! And the crowd goes wild. He walks in the building, and I just immediately throw a camera on his face. Angelo's again playing this weekend again. You know what? That makes me happy.
I'm happy too, Brent.
Brian and I were trying to backstage. We were trying to decide how much money we would legitimately be willing to pay to have Abraham's hair.
It's a high number. It's a high figure.
Rejoice in the Lord and be glad. Your righteousness sing, all you who are upright in heart.
Jesus, I'll sing for all that you've done for me.
He goes right into it,
I will get the same thing I always get. Do you know what that is?
You're welcome. Sugar-free vanilla latte Non-fat milk?
Whole milk.
Whole milk, okay. Whole milk and extra shot.
That's it. Caffeine. Yes. Coffee drink number 2 for the day. Yes. Two of what, Jesse? So I had 3.5 hours of sleep last night, so that means I need at least
Me too.
3.5 of these.
Yes, 3.5
to
shots.
compensate.
I am editing the clicks together so that the first 2 songs go back to back. Seamlessly. Transitions. Hashtag transition.
There they are on one timeline. The what, Tim?
The stresses of being a worship leader.
I live a completely stress-free life. I don't know about you.
Oh, well, tell me what you're doing. I would love to do what you're doing. Tell me what the remedy is.
Marry a good woman. You got that part down.
Yeah, I got that down.
Okay. Tim, tell me where we're going. I've been following you all through this church.
We're going to the staff
lounge. We're trying
lounge.
to film a little something, but we can't find a place that's not loud.
Staff lounge because it's
Oh,
nice.
yeah, look at this.
And it is cozier.
Tim's leading worship for students today. Tim, give us a few points about leading for students. We had a question on the last Sunday vlog. There was a viewer who was being commissioned to lead worship for students. Mm-hmm. And he said, do you have tips for leading for students? Cool. Tim is leading for students today. I have a few tips of my own because I've been leading worship for students for the last few years, actually.
Yeah, and quite successful.
Well, it's debatable. But I'll give a few tips later on in the video. But Tim's going to share a few pointers he's picked up over his many years of experience.
Some of the tips and things that I picked up, a lot of it was trial and error. Reading your room, knowing your students, and knowing where they are, and pretty much the life that they live. I mean, you can't really be trusted to lead students in a place unless you kind of get a chance to get to know them. One of the things that I make it a habit of doing is before even church, I'll go and introduce myself. I'll go, talk and have a good time, laugh. And then by the time worship happens, it's so much easier for them to really catch on and grasp worship because they know you and they trust you. And so they'll pretty much follow you as you lead them into a place of worship. So that's important. That's one of the tips I picked up. And another important thing is that you're constantly teaching, because students are just like unchurched people. They come in and they have no idea what is going on. They have no idea why are people lifting their hands. They have no idea what that even means. So while I'm up there, singing or leading, or while I'm doing a spiritual direction, I explain why people are lifting their hands. I explain why we sing aloud. I give the biblical background as to why it's so important. And next thing you know, once you start teaching them to do it, when you ask them to lift their hands, or when you ask them to shout to God or to make some noise, they do it because now they understand why. And we're living in a time, and the generation that you're singing to or ministering to, they're the why generation. So they got to know why we're doing it. What's the reason? What's the point? And so it's very, very important and very, very crucial to do that. The last point that I have, or tip that I have for people, is that even though I'm the worship leader, I really consider myself as a youth leader because, I connect with them. Even after worship, I'll connect with them and ask if there's things that I could pray for. Do they need anything? There's times I show up at basketball games, I show up at football games, baseball games. I'm there and I'm a part of their lives, and I get to watch them transition from not knowing what worship is into knowing what worship is, so that by the time that they become adults or young adults, by the time they get into regular worship with the regular adults, they go in knowing what to do. It's not a foreign atmosphere. When Fuller goes and say, hey, lift your hands, they know what to do because they learned it in students. Yeah. And so I think it's very, very crucial, whoever a worship leader is for students, that they teach. They're constantly teaching. They're constantly having that influence for the students to be able to grasp onto and to learn from.
The three of us have been tasked to put a table, which is right there, onto the stage at the end of worship. Nobody knows where it's supposed to go, and the tape marks are gone. So we're just gonna blindly. Oh, this is the end of the song. But once this is over, we're supposed to be putting this table, and there's a crock pot on it too. Javon's got the crock pot.
The crock pot actually is hot. Like,
Got everything underneath.
We can't be talking right now. So there's like real stew in the crock pot. There's actual food in the crock pot.
And it's hot.
It's hot. Don't spill it.
We've made our decision.
Thank you. You're welcome. In we go.
You lay down your life that I would be set free, yeah. And oh, Jesus, I sing for you done for me. Come on, from the front to the back, let's put our hands on it just like this. This is amazing grace. Can we celebrate Jesus? Praise the Lord.
I want to talk to you about managing your appetites. I don't know if you've ever given much thought to your appetites.
Fuller, you have tips for leading student worship?
Lead student worship the exact same way you would lead regular adult worship, with passion, with excellence, with humility, with preparation. All of those things will make your worship leading experience. Obviously, students are probably mentally at a different place than maybe some adults are. Students are much more mature. At the end of the day, I think the number one thing you can do as a student worship leader is to get to know the students. Get to know them, build a relationship with them, pour into their lives, and then they will, in turn, go where you lead them.
You know what? Tim Frisbee said the same thing.
There you go, Tim.
I would say this for leading students. 2 tips besides what Fuller and Tim have already shared. One is you got to bring some energy for students. Whether it doesn't even, you can be on an acoustic guitar and just singing, but you've got to bring some energy. 2 is you've got to be yourself. Because even more than adults, students can sniff out a fake. And that was a challenge for me because I'm a pretty laid back guy. I'm not like a no sudden movements kind of a worship leader. So, leading for students was a challenge for me. So I had to sort of force myself to bring a level of energy that I'm not used to, really. But I also did it in a way, and I made sure to do it in a way where I wasn't trying to be something that I'm not. Bring the energy, be authentic. That'll help you. Javon, this is Javon, by the way.
Yeah, hi.
Has uncovered a theological inaccuracy in the way we remember a classic story of the Bible, which is Moses parting the Red Sea. Now let me ask you, you two, what did Moses do to part the Red Sea? What happened? So the classical depiction is that he held out his rod, right? Go look at the Bible and see what it says.
We're talking about tips for leading worship for students today. Do you have any?
No, I don't do students.
Would you like to recant that statement?
I'll run lighting for students.
Perfect. How would you run lighting?
Very different than an adult worship experience.
Lots
of haze. Lots of haze.
Lots of haze.
Lots of moving lights.
The Holy Spirit is in the haze.
So for audio, just take all your old subwoofers, as many as you can find, all right?
Yeah.
Just stack them up as high as the eye can see.
Okay.
Plug them all in, and you just get that bass, man. That kick and that bass all day, just walls of bass for days.
So haze and subs.
Point 1, haze and movers.
Yeah.
Yep. Point 2, lots of strobes.
Lots of strobes.
Seizure strobes.
And then point 3.
Point 3, stack those subs, baby.
We're in the darkness again, Fuller.
This won't be the last time we do this.
Let's do time.
Our last song is Reckless Love. I'm going to refuse to play guitar on that song because of theological issues that I have.